So I recently tried Baldur's Gate 3 because PlayStation Plus had a 2-hour trial, and I want to be very clear here. This is not a review of Baldur's Gate 3. I don't think 2 hours is enough time to review a game in general, and it's for sure not enough time to review a game like Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's equivalent to someone saying that Elden Ring is the most amazing game ever when they only played 30 minutes of it.
Abomination. This is your end.
Now, I just want to go into some thoughts about my experience with the 2-hour trial, what I felt about the game in terms of combat, story, exploration, etc. But I need it to be known right now that this is not a game for me, and that's okay. Now, I know there are people out there who love this type of gameplay. They are big Dungeons and Dragons fans or players, and this game is pretty much up your alley. There were certain things about the game that I really did not enjoy, and I don't know if more time would have helped me to enjoy those things. I think I probably would have been a bit more annoyed as time went on beyond the 2 hours. Now, I do want to start with character customization. That's where the game pretty much starts off at. And I tried not to spend too much time on character customization. I didn't want to lose, majority of my playtime for the trial on character customization. I tried my best to make my guy kind of look like Loki or Tom Hiddleston's Loki. I did okay, I guess. And then I made my the character for my partner. I can't remember what they call it, but I didn't really understand what was going on in the game. From what I got so far, based on my time, was you were abducted on a ship by some race of alien or something, I don't know, and you are given this tadpole inserted into your brain that could potentially kill you. And as you go through the game, the tadpole will help you, I guess, read minds of other characters in the game. There wasn't enough time for me to get more of the story to understand what was going on. And being that it is an RPG, it is one of those games where you do have various choices for dialogue. And I felt that this was actually interesting in terms of what they did with the dialogue. Some games, like maybe Cyberpunk, for example, you need to have one of your stats at a certain level to be able to perform that option of dialogue or action. Whereas in here, there were different options that will do a dice roll, and it will give you a number that you have to roll higher than to be successful. And if you roll lower, you will be unsuccessful in the conversation. I didn't hate this mechanic, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I love this thing so much. It was very interesting, a way to help me try to come up with a backup plan for conversation or even other situations that required a dice roll. If I didn't get the number higher than what was asked of me, I then had to figure out a plan B. And that's great. That helps me to try to come up with a strategy for playing. Now, going on into combat, this is where I had the most problem, especially with exploration. I don't like the camera angles of the game. I understand why it is the way it is. I'm not saying it's a bad design for a game. It's just not my cup of tea. I did not like how the combat is very slow, in my opinion, very slow turn-based. I'm not a big turn-based guy. The only turn-based game I actually play is Pokemon. Aside from that, I just don't know why I can't do turn-based. It's just not for me. So I felt the combat was too slow. I had some issues primarily with how to actually navigate combat because there's so many different mechanics and options and systems that you can try to learn. It was just very overwhelming for me, especially in a 2-hour window. I do wish that PlayStation, if they're going to do these trials, they should give you more time based on the game. You know, a game like, let's say, they do a Resident Evil trial or Star Wars Jedi trial, 1-2 hours. That makes sense. Those games don't really need a lot more of, understanding and concentration and focus. Baldur's Gate 3 has so many mechanics and systems in place that I think you're going to need at least minimum 3 hours to kind of understand a bit of the game. So combat was difficult for me. The turn-based mechanics, the movement allowed, you're allowed a certain movement distance before you have to end your turn. I couldn't find a way to skip enemy turns to make the combat go a bit quicker. I don't know if that's an option in the game or not. The characters move very slow, in my opinion, especially exploring around the map. I couldn't find any sprint options. I did see it, a command to make a character jump, but I don't know what the purpose of that was and how I would use it. This game does kind of feel like it was mostly designed for PC gaming with all the options. You probably have the option on PC with all the different keys you can use, whereas a controller is much more limited than a keyboard. So it's great that this game is on console now that it's also on Xbox for those players who wanted to play it on Xbox, even though they had to make their cutbacks and change some things, but that's beyond the point. Um, Overall, though, with the combat, it just wasn't for me. I honestly didn't like the combat. I actually died 2 or 3 times within my 2 hour trial because I just didn't understand what to do, what I was doing. And then sometimes you have a character miss an attack, both you and an enemy character would miss an attack. Okay, I missed the attack, now it's a wasted turn. And I get that's part of the strategy, but I wanted to really see how this game could really open up more in terms of combat. But I'm not interested to the point where I'm going to spend $70 on the game. I'm just not that interested in the game to spend that much. But I do know the game has so many different options of how you can tackle different situations. You know, it's very open-ended, maybe even more open-ended than Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I could be wrong on that one, but I have seen a lot of videos talking about what you can do, all the different options, even stuff that you wouldn't even think about doing, you can do. A lot of, content, a lot of characters, a lot of options for relationships and romance if you want to do that. So I know that there's a lot in this game that fans of it will love, but I personally don't know what is a qualification or what are the requirements for a game to win Game of the Awards for Jeff Keighley's Game Award show or Game of the Year. I don't know what the requirement is to make Game of the Year, to reach Game of the Year. But I think with the feedback from the community and the fans, everyone who loved the game, all the support it got, all the millions and millions of downloads and all the content that was being made, that of course would win Game of the Year. But it's not my Game of the Year, and it doesn't mean anything. It's not like, oh, my Game of the Year is right and you're wrong for thinking this is Game of the Year. Some people will think Tears of the Kingdom is their Game of the Year. People might think Resident Evil 4 is their Game of the Year, even though there's a lot of blowback about that being a remake and nominated for Game of the Year. But it definitely was a busy year for games, and I think that Baldur's Gate 3 is filled with content. And not that I think, it's already, it's obvious, it's confirmed, it's known. Baldur's Gate 3 is filled with a lot of content. If you are a fan of these kinds of games, you will for sure get your money's worth. I just don't have the interest in putting the money and time into the game to learn it. And that's completely fine. It's just not my kind of game. I'm not saying that it's bad, and I'm not saying it's amazing. It's pretty much amazing from all the fans who love it, right? That's pretty much, we can pretty much say that safely. It's an amazing game, just not for me. But at least it's not as crappy as Starfield. But that's my video for today. Thank you guys for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'm gonna see you guys on the next one. Happy holidays. Peace out.